Hello and welcome to the second webinar in our summer series. Today's topic is, where are you at in your digital journey? Our focus for this session is really the importance in considering the future for both your SL and GP solutions. And at Innovate, we are dedicated to helping you understand what your options are and making informed decisions. If you're uncertain about where to begin, do not worry. We have a well-defined plan and steps for you to take, and we will be along with you with each one of those steps in that journey. We are also going to talk about the options that are available to you. We will dive into our free assessment tool. We'll talk about its benefits, how we use it internally, and then I'll actually walk through the tool to show you just how simple and easy it is to use. We also want to share some success stories, talk about some of the clients we've already helped move to Business Central from either GP or SL, and we'll talk about some of the positive outcomes that they have experienced when moving to Business Central. And then finally, we are going to wrap it up by discussing next steps and actions you can take immediately following the webinar. As I did mention, this is the second in our summer series. We do have one more webinar next week, so that's on Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern. If you are interested in understanding what it would take to host your GP solution in Azure, I encourage you to sign up and attend that session. My name is Casey Metzger. I am a product manager here at Innovate. I work on our migration and assessment tools and programs. And I am joined today by Jolene Origi. She leads our cloud sales migration team. So Jolene, as our customers are thinking about the future and what it means for GP and SL, why is it important that they start thinking about that now as opposed to later?
So Casey, I would think that people would start to think about moving off of Dynamics based upon the fact that the end is near, right? For SL, we know the end is near, coming in January of 2024. And GP, we have been told that it is 2028. Although it's not important for 2028, we know that it's time to make a decision, right? Where will I go from here? It could be out maybe a year or two after that. However, we know it's time to start thinking about what will we do. The benefits of moving to Business Central are to eliminate upgrades, downtime. You're now on a software as a service model for your subscription, so you no longer need a server. It's held in the cloud. You don't have your yearly maintenance, so you save money there. Once you make that decision to move to Business Central, you are now on a per user, per month basis. The other thing is that Microsoft now has a promotion for 40% off. So existing clients, as long as they are up to date on their maintenance, they get 40% off.
Yeah, Julie, I think it's key what you were talking about Microsoft, right? They've been very clear in their roadmap, certainly for SL, right? They're talking about sunsetting that this winter. For GP, it's a little bit longer roadmap, but they've made it very clear, right? They are spending the majority of their investments in the Dynamics 365 product space, which includes Business Central, right? So they're putting all their time and energy into these solutions where customers can benefit, right? They've got 2 updates twice a year that you can take advantage of. Those you don't have to schedule downtimes, right? You can certainly schedule when you want those, but there's a lot of benefit in moving to the cloud and taking advantage of all the resources and capabilities that Microsoft is adding to Business Central. And now you mentioned the promotion, right? Microsoft has a great promotion going on for our customers right now. So if you are considering moving to Business Central, I encourage you to take a look at the promotion and take advantage of that. So can you tell us a little bit more about that promotion and how our customers can take advantage of that?
Sure. So like I said, as long as they are current on their maintenance, so it's active maintenance plan, they get 40% off. The list price is $70 per user per month, and it becomes $42 per user per month. And I believe right now they are guaranteeing that you have that for 3 years. So you can do this as long all until up to your date of expiration.
Yeah, that's a really great deal. Like if you think of the advantages of that and taking the value of that 40% discount, it certainly makes that a much more compelling move if you are considering moving to Business Central. So let's pivot a little bit and talk about migration, options that are available to our clients. Maybe not everybody is ready to jump to Business Central yet, right? But there are certainly options that will help you in that path and that road to moving, to Business Central eventually. Jolene, can you talk a bit about some of the options that are available to clients and how we can help them on each step of that journey?
Sure. So a lot of customers, believe it or not, are on GP or SL and they have their feet in the sand and they do not want to move to anything, right? They're happy, they like the product, they're going to stick with it till the end of time.
You can stay on GP or SL as long as you want. If you decide that you want just to do that, we can help you with the upgrades. We have a full SL and GP team. You can also take your GP or SL and move it to Azure. So then you are still supported in the cloud. You don't have to have an on-prem server. Or we can upgrade you when you move to Azure, meaning we'll set up the new environment in Azure, then do the upgrade, move it all over there, and you can continue in the cloud. Lastly, we would move you to Business Central.
Yeah, I think it's great to see how we can lay this out, right? You don't have to do, if you're not quite ready, right, to make that leap, right, there are steps along the journey that will help you each step of the way, right, and thinking about the future and what that means for GP and SL. So I know some of you on the call might be thinking, I know we need to think about the future. We know that SL is going away, GP eventually be going away. I know we want to make some changes here, but Jolene, Casey, I just don't even know where to start. What is that first thing that I need to do, and how can Innovate help me with that? So Jolene, will you talk a bit about how we help our clients in each one of that step and what that process really does look like as they're thinking about the future?
Sure. So first thing is, if you have an account manager, get with them, right? They can basically go through this process with you. If you don't have an account manager, feel free to reach out to me and I will get hooked up with one of our account managers that specializes in these migration discussions. Then we will want you to run our assessment tool. Our assessment tool helps us get some metrics on your system and how it maps to Business Central. Once you run that, you upload it to us. We look at it internally and then set up a call with you, right? We want to go through the metrics we saw, if there's any risks, and Casey's going to go through a couple of these when she shows the assessment in a bit. And then we have a little bit more detailed discussion so that we can come up with a rough order of magnitude. So say we say it's $50,000. That way you can decide yay or nay. I have this budget, I want to move forward with it. We get into a little bit more detail, go through some specifics, maybe some ISVs, what you need for reporting. Do you have any integrations? We get to the detail of it so that we can get you a budgetary estimate. Have you look through that? Once you review that, the timeline in your budget, we create an SOW for you to sign off on.
That's great, Jolene. So it's nice to see kind of the steps and how we work with you in each one of those steps, making sure, again, we know your company, where you want to go with the future, and creating really that personalized roadmap for you. So I want to touch a little bit more on the assessment tool. So Jolene talked about, we have these assessment tools for both GP and SL, and they are free of charge, so it costs you nothing to run the tool. We also design them to be lightweight, right? We don't want them to be intrusive, so you don't need to think about, gosh, I need to run this in the evening or on the weekend. You can run it while everybody's in the system. So you can run this during the day while you have users in GP or SL. They will not see any performance issues running the tool while they are working. It also only requires read access to your SQL Server, so it doesn't change anything in your GP system or your SL system. It's just really going in and detecting any possible issues and helping us get a better idea of the footprint of your solution there. So as I mentioned, it will go in and it will look to see if you have any ISV solutions installed. If you are thinking of making that leap to Business Central, it will help detect issues. And that's really helpful for us because we can understand any issues with the data, help you get those fixed beforehand, and we can be much more proactive in that process so that we're not trying to address and worry about these issues when we're trying to actually run the migration. It will also help us understand the complexity of your system, right? How simple or complex it is, right? So that again, we can help you understand what it would look like to take your solution into Business Central. And then depending on the modules and features you use, that also helps us understand what migration tools are available to us, right? We have some different tool sets out there, and depending on what modules and features you use, that helps us just better understand that migration story and what tools best fit based on your solution. So in order to run the tool, I'm actually going to walk you through it. The first step of the tool is to sign up for it. So there's a real simple form where you're going to fill out a few pieces of information about your organization. The key here is the email address that you use. There's no password that you need to remember for that. Everything is associated with whatever email address you enter in. So once you fill out this first form, you're going to hit submit, and then you're going to receive an email. That email is going to have a link on it. When you click the link, it'll take you to a page that looks like this. You can read a little bit more about the tool, but the main thing you're going to do here is download the tool. It downloads a single executable file. So I'm going to bring that open. So I've already downloaded the tool itself, and this is what it looks like. So the first thing you need to do is just copy this big long token. You just need to click on the little icon here. It will copy it to your clipboard, and then you're going to go ahead and paste that into the tool. So I'll go ahead and paste that and click next. The next screen then is going to start wanting information around your server. I mentioned we look at information in your GP or SL SQL server. So you're going to need to know your SQL server name, where your GP or SL solution is. If you do launch the tool from a desktop that already has the client installed, so the GP client or SL client, the tool will try and detect what your SQL server name is. So you can see it's automatically defaulted mine in for me because I have the GP client installed on my computer. The next thing you need is just a user and a password that has access to that SQL server. I always tell people, if you know your SL password or your SA password, enter that in. That's pretty foolproof. But if you don't know your SA password, that's okay. You just need somebody that has read access to the SQL server. Once you click connect, you can see my company's defaulted in for me. Now, we recommend or say a best practice is don't select companies that you don't plan to migrate. So if you have test companies out there, you know you're never going to take those to Business Central, go ahead and unmark those. And you can see by default, I have the demo company. So this is just the demo company in GP. It will unmark that. You can certainly mark it, but if you unmark the companies and test companies and demo companies, it just reduces the amount of data that we look through in the report. So it can be a little more concise. So once you've selected the companies that you want to assess, the next step is to browse out to your Dynamics set file. So I'm going to go ahead and select that button, and then you can browse out to your Dynamics set file. So if you're using the GP one, you would want to browse out to that. If you don't know where your set file is, that's totally okay. You can just go ahead and mark this. But selecting that set file will allow us to look at those ISV solutions that you may be using. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save here. And then the next process is just to run the tool. So I'm going to go ahead and click Run Assessment. This should move very fast. You can see there's a little ticker at the bottom letting me know where it is in the process and how many tasks that it is running against. And again, it should move very fast depending on the number of companies that you're assessing. In this example, I'm assessing 2 different companies. So if you select 10 of them, it gets a little bit longer. But again, it should only take minutes in order to run the tool. Once it's completed there, I think one of the main questions I get from clients is, Casey, can you help me understand what data are you collecting on my system? I want to know what you're collecting. And I tell them you can always review that before you upload those results. So if I flip to one of my companies, I just want to show you the type of data that it's collecting. So we're really looking more at metadata, setup data, counts in record counts and tables. We are kind of looking at the anatomy of your data to try and detect any issues there. So we are not grabbing your customer lists. We are not looking at your vendors. It's not looking at amounts that you have in specific GL accounts, nothing like that. So you can come in and review all the type of data there. Once you're comfortable with what the tool has collected, then you can click Send Results. So I'm going to go ahead and click Send Results. And this is going to upload those results to the server. The one tip I will give you there too, we've had some customers that will run this directly on their server where they have GP or SL, and just make sure that that's connected to the internet, because that's what's going to upload it. So sometimes we have clients that their server isn't connected to the internet, so they're unable to upload those. So just make sure when you run the tool that it is from a desktop that is connected to the internet, so you can upload those results. So you can see the system has let me know it's successfully uploaded. So then the next step is you will receive another email from the assessment tool letting you know the results have been analyzed and you can view your report. So this is an example of what that report looks like, and we will also receive a link to this report. And this is where Jolene mentioned we will meet internally and look at that report and then meet with you so we can have a great discussion about what it would mean for you to migrate. So again, we will look at things like ISV solutions, right? So since I selected my set file, I can see that I've got 14 different ISV solutions installed in GP, and this is where Jolene and team can have a conversation with you about that. Do you need these solutions going forward in Business Central? Do we find you something comparable in Business Central? Or maybe you don't need those solutions anymore because Business Central has that functionality out of the box. You no longer need that ISV solution there. Or maybe you didn't even realize you still had that solution and you're not using it. And then we can have a great discussion about whether or not you leave that behind. We'll also look at your GP and SQL Server information. We'll look at versions and size. This can become important because this helps us understand what sort of tooling we can use to migrate you to Business Central. Microsoft has a migration tool out of the box that we can use, but you have to be on certain versions of GP and SQL Server in order to do that. If you're not on those versions, don't worry though, there are other tools that we can do and mechanisms we can use in order to move that data. But this just again helps us understand what it would look like to move your data to Business Central. It'll also show us which features you're using, the functionality and modules. So this isn't just what you're registered for, this is actually what you are using in the system. And again, this helps us have those conversations about what functionality you're using, what would that mean, what would it look like to do that in Business Central there. And again, the little indicator just lets us know if the migration tool handles that or do we need to use other mechanisms to bring that across to Business Central. Jolene?
I just would add to that some of the migration risks. I see there's 18 there. Sometimes it's something small. It could be the fact that you have some things, some years open, or it has to do with inventory. If their characters are over 20, the max in BC is 20. So it would be kicked out if you use the migration tool. So we help you with cleaning up that data so that the migration tool will work smoothly. So that's where some of these migration risks are from.
Yeah, definitely. And like Jolene said, with each one of these, we will work with you. We give you more information about how to fix that, and we can work with you. Like this is an example of a customer, right? It's just identified that you've got 3 customers that happen to have alpha characters in their phone numbers, and BC doesn't allow alpha characters. And if you remember, I said the tool doesn't go through and look at your customer list. So the tool doesn't know which customers have the issue, it just knows it detected 3 of them. And with each one of these, we always provide a SQL script. So if you were to run this SQL script on your server, it would then identify which 3 that needed to be fixed. And then again, you can address these upfront. And again, we can work with you through each one of these issues, making sure we fix those before we would migrate you. So again, that just gives you an idea of the amount of information and really, again, helps us create that personalized roadmap for your organization and what it would look like to move to the cloud. We also use these, Jolene mentioned, if you're not ready to move to Business Central, we use this when we're upgrading. We use this if we're looking to host, if you're interested in having your infrastructure hosted in Azure. We use this report in all of those discussions because it gives us such a great idea of what your existing solution looks like. So again, free, really easy to use and should go really fast. So that's an overview of what the assessment tool is. So if we step away from the tools, Jolene, let's talk about some success stories, right? We've helped several of our clients migrate from GP or SL to Business Central. Can you talk about some of the experiences that you've had with your clients as they're thinking about moving to Business Central and what that meant for them?
Sure. So one of our customers, Ron Allen, he wasn't my customer to start, but we work together now. We meet about every 6 weeks just to make sure that everything is okay. And we talked about, the reasons why he moved to Business Central. And he felt that, one, it was the infrastructure, right? They wanted to make sure that they moved to the cloud. They were done with on-prem. They They did not like to do the upgrades. They stayed up on it, so they did them every year or two. So it was expensive, it was time consuming. They also had issues with their reporting. They felt that they didn't have the good reporting, so we talked to them about Solver BI, and we did it all for them. But I think what was important for him was he wanted to modernize. And he was very open and honest with me, which I liked, saying, you know, it was hard. It was definitely a different process from what they were using in GP. However, he was very connected with the consultant. He grabbed hold of the fact that he wanted to move to Business Central. He wanted it to be successful, and he never looked back. So he spent a lot of time documenting the processes, documenting the videos. He videoed all his recordings for training. They referenced that several times. And he came up with a plan, a process for different things so that they can reference their notes, right? They had it all written up. And yes, you could do this with GP2, but we haven't in the past, right? People haven't really documented, but he understood the importance of being successful. He told me that, you know, they do their updates twice a year. They really only have a process for the two big ones. Otherwise, they're pretty non-eventful, but every person has a task. Every person has a checklist. He has a process down so it's non-eventful. And the other thing is it goes into a test, right? It goes into your sandbox. When you're getting these updates, they give you time to go through these processes to make sure that everything is working as it should. If it doesn't, you can call Innovate. We'll work with you to get through those. You know, there could be an issue with an extension you have, customization, but for the most part, it's an easy fix. You push out the date with Microsoft until you're comfortable, and then they run the update. And there's little to no interruption in your business. So he liked that too. He's a great reference for us, and he believes in the product, and now he's just loving it.
That's a great story, Jolene. It, you know, you talked about the fact that it wasn't just a simple, easy button, but the benefits he's reaping, right, by spending the time and energy and his team did into documenting the processes, right, and working very closely with us, right. And now I imagine they are so much more efficient and nimble and likely more competitive in their area because of all the time and energy they have. And now they get these continued benefits that Microsoft's making, enhancements they're making to Business Central. So really just a great story of saying, you know, working with us in that partnership and spending the time and now what they're able to get on the other side being on Business Central. That's great.
Yes,
So
definitely.
let's pivot to a different story. So another example where you had worked with a customer. Let's talk a little bit about that experience.
Sure. So this customer and I were having discussions going through everything where they were in their digital journey, and we talked about Business Central. They saw the demos, they liked it, and so we gave them a quote, and the quote was $60,000. And then she said, could you give me a comparative upgrade for GP so I could share this with my bosses? They could understand what the differences are. And then there was this other email that came through IT where she was on it, and I saw that she said, it looks like we're going to go to just do the upgrade. And so I said, can I have 15 minutes of your time so we can kind of go through this document I have that shows your total cost of ownership over 5 years? And so we got on the phone and we went through this. So if you look at the top, where it's the $15,265, that's what we quoted for an upgrade. And if you go across the top on the right, the next couple of years are just kind of quick updates, maybe year-end updates, and then another upgrade on the fourth year. And then if you go down the first column, it shows their enhancement renewals, their third-party renewals, a little bit of support, and they are hosted today in Azure, a managed service contract. So their total per year would be $58,000. If you look at the bottom, this is them moving to Business Central. The first line is 10 users, $42 per user per month. And then they have a third party, so that's the $5,400. And then the $60,000 to migrate, and the associated support, which is the same as above. So yes, the first year they are paying a little bit more with the $15,000. However, if you go over to the 5-year return on investment, they're saving $127,000. So she was very baffled at this, like, wow, I can't believe this is really what the results are. And of course, every customer is different. You have different costs. You might not have it hosted. However, we go through this with you to kind of help you with that decision. She was all set to go back and talk to her bosses about why this is a better fit for them, knowing that there is the roadmap that GP is end of life, right? It's not today, and it's not emergent, but it is coming. So they're going to make the decision to go to Business Central.
That's great, Jolene. If you can kind of see the compelling, I think sometimes people think, I already own the solution, right? It's very, it works for me, it doesn't cost a lot, but I think when we start laying out for them, you know what I mean, what their infrastructure is costing them, those upgrades and that sort of thing, and kind of lay it out for them, it many times is a very compelling story, and the money that they can save by moving their solution in the cloud and moving to Business Central. So a great example of how we worked with our customers, right, and helping you understand what those options are. So let's talk about next steps. So we've talked about, the benefits of moving to the cloud, the options that you have, where to start if you're not sure, some examples of clients that we've successfully migrated. So let's talk about next steps. So the first one is contact your account manager. If you are not sure who your account manager, here is Jolene's information. Please reach out to Jolene. She would be happy to talk with you and connect you with one of our account managers, right? So we can start having that discussion with you. The second step then is that assessment tool. So here's a couple quick QR codes. So if you're a GP customer and SL customer, again, all of our conversations really start with this first step, this assessment tool, so that we can get a great idea of what your solution looks like, so we can have those, deeper level discussions there. We are not asking you, I know, before we had the assessment tool, right, many times we were asking you to fill out surveys, lengthy pieces of paper, right? This really eliminates that, and we can jump right into the details with you. So we encourage you to run the assessment tool there. And if you have problems running the assessment tool, certainly reach out to us. We are more than happy to jump on the call with you and get that assessment run. So if you do run into a hiccup along the way, certainly please reach out to us. We will help you get the assessment tool run. I also wanted to plug the session again next week. So as you've been sitting on the webinar, if you're thinking where you want to go, and you really want to better understand what it would take to host your GP solution in Azure, again, I encourage you to come to our session next Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern. Bill does a great job explaining what that process looks like, the benefit of moving your infrastructure into the cloud. So I really encourage you, if you are at all interested in understanding that topic better, to attend that session next Thursday. We also, what would it be, a webinar if we weren't giving out some freebie at the end? So at the end of the webinar, you're going to get a link to a survey. I think it's only 4 or 5 questions, super fast. So please fill out that survey. Once you fill it out, your name will be thrown in, and you may win a $50 Uber gift certificate. So again, remember to fill out that survey. We always love feedback on these webinars. And with that, Jolene, is there anything else anything else you wanted to cover before we jump into Q&A?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, perfect. All right, so we would like to open it up if there are any questions.
Yes, excuse me. We do have one question. Colleen would like to know, what is a typical timeline for a migration?
So that's going to depend on the customer, right? It will depend on what they have for integrations, what they have for companies, what they're going to bring over, their modules. So I would say beginning 4 months, right? But again, it's going to depend on the assessment tool. So we would want them to run that. Once we get that assessment, we do have a good understanding and we'll be able to tell them once we have that review of the assessment.
All right, and then we have a question from Connie. Connie would like to know, can you tell us the monthly cost again?
Sure. So if you are current on maintenance, the Microsoft discount is $42 per user per month for a full user and $8 per user per month for a view only. I know some people like to have those type of users. Non-discounted is $70 per user per month.
And then we have one more here. Why should I work with Innovate to migrate to Business Central?
Well, and I think Julie and I touched a lot on this. We have very well-defined processes. We've helped many customers along that journey. That's where we, again, want to take it a personalized view, right? That's why the assessment tool really, right? We want to make sure we really understand your system, your business, your needs. And we have a lot of experience using the tooling from Microsoft. Innovate actually has quite a few people that used to work at Microsoft and wrote many of the tools. They're the migration tools. So we have a lot of expertise, deep knowledge in using the migration tools and infrastructure that they have to migrate it. So we have a lot of deep expertise in Innovate that can really help that process be very quick, efficient, and seamless for you.
And a lot of our consultants are able to know GP as well as Business Central, so they help you with that comparatives. In fact, Casey has done a couple of videos for us that we can share that do the comparisons from the different modules so that you can see the differences. The other thing is, I think Casey's not being as proud, but we have created the migration tool for Microsoft, right? So we know the tool, we know the data, and I think we're very successful because of that.
Yes, yes, we do work for Microsoft in building out the migration tool and the features and functionality. So again, we have that intimate knowledge of how the migration tool works so that we can make sure we get your data moved across correctly and quickly. All right, perfect. Well, thank you again for joining us today. Again, those next steps, reach out to your account manager if you don't know. Reach out to Jolene if you're not sure who your account manager is, and take that assessment tool. We would love to have a conversation with you and help you understand what your options are and getting you in the right direction for the future. So thank you again for attending today.
Yes, thank you.